Okay, we can start because we have a lot to go on. So today, we're talking about the Blue Beam Project. I've already spoke about it in 4 other meetings. I've always brought you new footages, documents, videos, Marian messages. And today too I've brought you new Marian messages and different footages and documents. It's an extremely important topic, so I recommend you to subscribe to Alberto Caxialanza YouTube channel. Click on the bell. I've created a playlist specially for you called Universe. Watch these videos of 1.5 hours to 2 hours. The ones on the Blue Beam Project are very important, and take notes. I always say, take some short notes. You have to take them. Otherwise, by just listening you don't keep anything. So always take notes. Okay? Because they're really messing things up. The Blue Beam Project is the ultimate plan of the Antichrist. It's the last card he has to play, the Antichrist. They're really messing things up so much. At the end of this meeting, then I'll talk to you about the reptilian bodies that they presented at the Parliament in Mexico. That in my opinion, there are dark forces behind it. They are behind the secret services, and I'll make you understand it by always showing you new Marian messages, new documents, new videos, okay? So let's start, dear friends. Apparitions of Trevignano Romano. You all know it well. 2022, my children, I ask you to go out into the streets of the world to announce the gospel. Tell everyone that Jesus will soon return, and you should be ready. Paratico, Apparitions Brescia, 1997. Go all over the world and joyfully announce that Christ is risen and will return in glory. Luz de Maria Apparition Argentina, 2014. Fight, be brave, defend my truth, announce that I am ready, and that I will soon come with my justice. To take action towards this generation that despises my calls and denies my mother. Carbonia, Apparition Sardinia, 2021. Beloved children, walk the roads of the world, announcing my second coming. Be adorned with light. So, it is clear, extremely evident, Our Lady is appearing throughout the world. For what? To announce the second coming of Jesus, to prepare us for the second coming of Jesus, who is returning as a judge. To give a sentence, not to be crucified. With our good works, deeds, Jesus will give us a reward. With our bad works instead, we will have a sad and terrible destiny. So let's do good deeds, what we have to do. Our Lady invited us with just a pinch of courage, just that much, to announce the second coming of Jesus. Let's do it all together. Let's announce the second coming of Jesus. Also the Antichrist, however, has his plan, his agenda, which is naturally opposite to that of Our Lady. What is his plan? His program is to remove from the mind of humanity, of all humanity, that Jesus is the Messiah, is the true Son of God. And he wants to remove from the mind of humanity that Jesus is returning to earth, okay? Carbonia, 2015. This world is in misery and Satan, his yoke, is on my children. And they do not understand, they do not realize, they are being played by the cursed serpent. They have their eyes blindfolded, and their ears shut, yes. El Escorial, Apparitions in Spain, 1996. The world is in the hands of Satan. Luz de Maria, 2016. You have lived with various human detractors who have made man suffer. At this moment, the powers are uniting to pave the way for the true Antichrist. So, this elite that is ruling the world, these Illuminati, are preparing the manifestation of the antichrist. That is, everything negative that is happening. The attack to the Twin Towers on September 11th, the war in Israel, Palestine, Ukraine, Syria, Iraq. The scenario that started in China and that spread throughout the world with all its nuances. The inflation that is increasing more and more, the economic crisis that will come. It's all part of the plan. Everything is coldly planned and intentional. It is a project of the elite, that is, they want to wreak havoc on a global scale, and then the Antichrist manifests. As St. Paul said in the letter to the Thessalonians, he manifests himself as a God, as a Messiah, because he will. Apparently, it's obvious, resolve the problems of the entire humanity, and therefore, as a consequence, humanity will obey the Antichrist, and therefore, he will remove from the mind the fact that Jesus is the true Son of God. And he will remove from the minds the fact that Jesus will return to earth. Okay? And how will the Antichrist manifest himself? Satan is ruling this world. And we have understood it from the organized wars. We have understood it with this scenario which started in China then spread throughout the world. But there are many, many other signs. For example, if you look at what happened during the Commonwealth ritual, the St. Gotthard ritual, the 2012 Olympics ritual, if you look at these videos, you see that they are rituals truly dedicated to the devil. We have also seen that the statues of the goat, of Moloch, and representations of the bull, which represents the god bull, have been placed in various cities. Also, what did we see? For example, these posters. I hope all these big awards nominees don't forget to thank me. Lucifer. Ariana Grande. Follow us on Facebook. The hidden side of music. We have come to this point. That is, high-level cinema is completely run by the elite, by the Illuminati. And every now and then they also launch important notifications that we must observe. The same goes for the music world. We always come across manifested symbols, such as the triangle, the pyramid of Freemasonry, or the eye at the top of the pyramid, which sees everything. We also saw a show in America where you could see people who had undergone surgery, that is, half-naked women without breasts, and I think there was also a man without manhood, with children in front of them. They asked the children if it was right to do such surgeries. And of course, what do you expect the children to have answered? That yes, it was normal, it was right. So they are imprinting on the new generation the mentality that it is normal to change sex, at will, with challenging surgical operations. And so, they are slowly destroying the family. Then, there are other signs that show us how the elite govern this world. And now, let's see them. Let's see this video.
I turn the propeller, and I push the clouds away. These pipes that are up here, and those that are underground, it's full of pipes underground, or loaded with aluminum powder. The aluminum powder is becoming charged from the solar energy, and causes the clouds to move away. If the energy that is coming out of the tubes has a positive polarity, positive and positive repel each other, If instead they form a negative pole, they attract each other.
Therefore, the propeller charged with aluminum powder with a positive pole will enter into conflict with the positive energy of the clouds and will move them away. Vice versa, if charged with a negative pole, it causes rain. In fact, you begin to see a break in the clouds.
Look how it opens. Above the propeller, but nobody believes it.
After 10 minutes the break widens. After just half an hour, above the sky above Igina's propeller, it is now completely open.
Here, you see, this is the machine to eliminate seismic movements.
And with this you can avoid earthquakes.
Exactly. Why? Because the movement of the solar energy, and I repeat same as before, descends in a spiral way, enters the earth and exit in a spiral opposite way because it is a reflection. So if we look at this tube, it has a spiral shape that from big goes to small. These tubes are full of aluminum powder. These tubes are full of aluminum powder. This is full of iron powder, to make electrolysis one with the other. These here, which are all aluminum tubes, so aluminum powder, they go down 4 meters, and have the spiral shape of the outgoing movement.
Basically what we see above is also made below.
Exactly. When that earthquake happened in South Tyrol, do you remember? We had it in place for 2 months and then immediately here it made a lot of smoke. It seemed everything caught fire. Then we discovered instead it was the energy that was coming out.
And at that point the earthquake was blocked?
Yes, there was nothing here, nothing. Completely exhausted. The earthquake is born from compressed gas. If we go by bicycle, so that the tire does not explode, we have to put a valve, right? Yes, and so, this also does the same.
And can you prove to us that through this valve, the earthquake is prevented from happening? Can you prove it?
Yes, because I will bring you the newspapers, if I still have them, that reported an earthquake had occurred in Modena, an earthquake had occurred in Faenza, and in Imola nothing.
Within 50 kilometers radius.
This here, putting it in the places where there are seismic movements, they never happen.
We saw Igina, a genius. He had placed these tubes at ground level and also below it. These tubes spun like a helicopter blade. Inside these tubes, there was aluminum powder, which was charged with solar energy, acquiring a positive polarity. So, these tubes that spun emitted an energy with a positive polarity. When the tubes emit energy with a positive polarity, the clouds that are above, they move away. In fact, in a video we observed how these tubes, loaded with aluminum powder, emitted this energy with a positive polarity. You saw in the video that the sky opened up and the clouds moved away. When these tubes emit an energy with negative polarity, the clouds are attracted. Then, what did we see? What did we see? We saw the anti-earthquake machine, which has a spiral shape. Why spiral? Because the energy that comes from the sun, together with the energy reflected by the earth, makes a spiral movement. These tubes are loaded with aluminum powder, and in the center, there is a tube filled with ground powder. Furthermore, this structure was built in a mirrored way, that is, with an upward-facing cone and a downward-facing cone. Looking at this image, you understand that the downward-facing cone goes into the ground, while the upward-facing cone, it remains protruding from the ground. This machine, they explain to us, works as a relief valve. That is, when earthquakes occur, there are vibrations in the subsoil and compressed gases. This machine acts as a relief valve, that is, releasing the energy of the earthquake. In fact, it was observed that in Sud Tyrol, one of these machines was placed and, when an earthquake broke out, smoke and flames came out of it, precisely because the energy of the earthquake was vented. Furthermore, around this machine, in the surrounding area, the earthquake did not occur. The same happened in Emilia-Romagna region. There was one of these machines placed and, when the earthquake broke out, near this machine the earthquake did not manifest itself. So if we were to spread this technology and put these machines in various areas of the planet, there would be fewer earthquakes, significantly fewer. Then, we also saw Carlo Rubbia, the physicist Carlo Rubbia, who invented and patented solar mirrors. Only with solar mirrors we have free, clean, free energy for everyone. Then we saw Etri Majorana's machine, called God's machine, because it could do anything. For example, it could transform the very famous CO2 into ozone. It could also transform all the toxic pollutants, all the waste in the sea, and not only there, it could transform them into free, clean and free energy for everyone. And then, there is also the video that I had already shown you. With this machine they had transformed 120 cubes of foam rubber into 120 cubes of gold. With this machine, they had then transformed stones, gravel, into wheat. So, if this technology had spread all over the world, we would live in a much better world, without the pollution problem, without climate problems, without hunger problems. So we would live far better. So why hasn't this technology spread all over the world? We have to ask ourselves this question. Carbonia, 2008. Satan is already among you, O men, and he manages your life. Even on a practical level. Luz de Maria, Argentina 2014. Children, my people are surrounded by every evil that has penetrated them, and want to gather a great loot to increase the ranks of the sects that fight against my designs. Freemasonry, the Illuminati, communism, and the great technologies at the service of Satan. Then we get there. The technologies at the service of Satan interfere with my designs, protected by those who have betrayed me, with the approval and complacency of man, and his will, totally devoted to the service of the enemy of my people, the Antichrist. So, Satan manages our life, the Antichrist manages our life, even on a practical level. That is, we with all these technologies, could have a perfect climate, no pollution problems, no climate problems. Everyone would have had food for free. Okay? We would live 100 times better. Instead, now, in the Western world, which is supposed to be the wealthy world, in quotation marks, families, even normal ones, are starting to do their calculations, to make ends meet, to pay the bill, to go on vacation. They have to do their math. Wars are increasing. Thousands of children die of hunger every day. Catastrophes are increasing. Pollution is growing more and more. Why? Because Satan rules this world. With the collaboration of the elite, the Illuminati, who manage the world's information, and have always prevented these technologies from spreading throughout the world. How did they prevent these technologies from spreading throughout the world? Simple. When a brilliant person makes a discovery like that, they begin to slander him and make his life impossible. In fact, there was Daniel Dingel in the Philippines who had modified 100 cars. These cars no longer ran on gasoline, but on hydrogen. 100 cars. They made him spend 20 years in prison as an innocent person. They made his life impossible. Etera Majorana. They built the God machine more than once. And what happened? As soon as this machine was built, gone, the secret services, they made it disappear. They also adopt other methodologies to ensure that this technology does not spread for our good. Let's see this video.
In fact, there are people who have tried to make energy at zero cost. They succeeded and disappeared physically. Here's an example. We made a project for a high-altitude wind generator, which is perfectly feasible and would allow us to produce electricity at 2 cents per kilowatt-hour. It was approved by 2 ministerial commissions, and then everything has been hushed up.
We heard the scientist Mauro Marchionni. He had proposed his high-altitude wind project, and with this project he could provide energy for everyone at a very low cost. They blocked his project, of course. Then, what did this scientist tell us? What did he tell us? That there had been other people who had discovered the way to produce free energy for everyone. These people have been made to disappear physically. They made them disappear physically. In fact, I showed you the video of Stanley Meyer on purpose. Stanley Meyer was driving this dune buggy, this car, which could travel for 80 kilometers with 1 liter of water. There is the video, 80 kilometers with 1 liter of water. After a while, some people showed up and said to him, "We want to buy this project." He refused. He said, "No. I keep this project." After a while, he went to a restaurant, drank cranberry juice, started to feel sick, and said, "They poisoned me." He fell to the ground, died. So, they make you to disappear physically. And there are other cases, of course. Then what do they do? It doesn't end there. Then what do? They take the patents, steal the patents, and study them, develop them secretly in the secret bases. I'll give you proof of this right away. Let's watch this video. It's an important video.
This short and intriguing recording was reported on Tuesday, March 7, 2023, and obtained somewhere in the Asian nation of China. In it, we can observe with complete clarity how a mysterious silhouette that has been identified as humanoid, it is suspended in the air, while a strong and unusual electrical storm develops. What is the origin of this entity? How it is capable of manipulating lightning? It is estimated that a single lightning strike can reach between 1,000 and 10,000 million joules of energy, with a current of up to 200,000 amperes and 100 million volts. The surrounding air can reach temperatures of 20,000 degrees Celsius. For this reason it is considered lethal.
So, we saw this video that was analyzed. They did it in China few months ago. And we saw this humanoid entity that manifested in the sky. We see it better here, in this image. Okay, a humanoid entity. Anyway, let's go back to the image from before. Around this humanoid entity, in China, an electrical storm manifested. And we see these lightning bolts, and these bolts, that depend on this humanoid entity, visible in the sky. The Tesla coils that we see here. Around the Tesla coils there is an electrical storm, and we see lightning that depends on the Tesla coil. So, looking at this video, taken in China, with this humanoid entity, and comparing it with the Tesla coil video, what we understand, that the secret services have developed this technology in secret, and they are able to project it at the atmospheric level. Tesla. Then, what had he done? He had once created a small earthquake artificially. He was patenting time travel technology, teleportation technology, anti-gravity propulsion technology, and also the death ray, a directed energy weapon, that is, a stream of concentrated particles that can destroy any target in front of it. I will show you all of this later. Now we look again at this humanoid entity that we saw in China again. Under this humanoid entity, a halo of light blue appeared. This halo of light blue also appeared in various parts of the world when earthquakes occurred. So, this leads us to think that earthquakes could be artificially created by the elite. And now I will give you the proof. Let's see this video.
発生した時の仙台市の様子です。大きく揺れています。縦に
Pinchamos. ¿En serio? Sí. Terremoto. Weón. Vente para acá. Cierra la puerta.
Está cerrado por el otro lado.
Wow, ¿qué es esto?
Marrakech, dans la nuit du vendredi 8 au samedi 9, Brocoli TV. Regardez dans le ciel.
Poco antes del terremoto registrado el viernes 8 de septiembre del 2023 en la nación africana de Marruecos, residentes de la ciudad de Marrakech tuvieron la oportunidad de registrar la presencia de un conjunto de esferas que se mantenían estáticas en el cielo, que se trata de 6 objetos esféricos de tamaño considerable que emitían un fuerte brillo. Un video revelador que vincularía una vez más la presencia de extraños objetos antes y durante movimientos de tierra. Asimismo, en el puerto de Casablanca, pocos minutos antes del temblor, también en un video muy corto, testigos registraron la manifestación de las denominadas señales de luz en el cielo. Es importante mencionar que tan solo unos días antes de la tragedia, la noche del 4 de septiembre, en Marruecos, ya se había reportado la presencia de extrañas luces en el cielo que en un singular movimiento de ida y vuelta sobrevolaron el cielo nocturno. Finalmente, durante el desarrollo del movimiento de tierra, una vez más se reportaron una serie de extraños resplandores, los cuales en los últimos años han sido documentados en video justo en el momento en el que se presentan grandes terremotos.
Let's look again for a moment at the previous image, where this humanoid entity appeared in the sky in China. Below you can see a halo of light blue. This light blue also manifested itself in the earthquake in Sendai, Japan. The sky was dark, of course, and this light manifested itself during the earthquake. The same thing happened in another part of Japan in 2011, during the earthquake, in Chile in 2010, another earthquake, the sky was completely dark, and a blue light manifested itself. In Colombia, in 2012, look. Very strong, this blue light manifested itself, during the earthquake, in Italy, in Emilia-Romagna region, in 2012, this light manifested itself, you see it here, in the circle. Then in Mexico, another very obvious case, 2023, earthquake, where these lights manifest themselves. In Turkey, in 2023, another earthquake. There have been other earthquakes and these lights have always manifested themselves. Then in Peru, in 2007, there was an earthquake, and these blue lights again appeared. But these two small spheres of light also appeared. And one could say, well, that they were just two street lamps. I could be contested of. Then let's look at the earthquake of September 8, 2023 in Morocco. The usual blue lights appeared. And on that day, in Morocco were seen holograms in the sky. But on the same day as the earthquake, in Casablanca, Morocco, September 8, 2023, spheres of light appeared in the sky. And on September 4, 2023, that is, 4 days before the earthquake in Morocco, they saw in the sky, in Morocco, lights that moved, holograms. In the surroundings of these earthquakes, they found electrical anomalies in the magnetic field, and also Tesla was able to create electrical anomalies in the magnetic field. Then let's remember that it is called Project Blue Beam, Project Blue Ray. We always see these blue lights that appear in the vicinity of these earthquakes. I first showed you on purpose this humanoid entity that showed up in China to make you understand that the powerful are using Tesla technology at the atmospheric level, and not only so, making all these connections, we understand that even earthquakes are created artificially. Let's see the Marian messages. What do they tell us? Carbonia 2021. The delirium of the powerful has reached the maximum level of wickedness. Their mind is corrupted by Satan. The earth will tremble everywhere because of their war machinery. Science has been bought by Satan. Luz de Maria 2021. Pay attention. Pray. The earth will tremble strongly, in some countries due to natural causes, and in others due to misused science and the perverse mind of man. 2022. Pray with your heart that the intensity of the use of weapons, unknown to you, may decrease. So, the powerful are using weapons that we do not know, and some earthquakes are caused by nature, while other earthquakes are caused artificially. It is clear, it is evident, and there are also all the notifications. Let's see. The card game Illuminati. Illuminati is the elite, in that we see this card of 1995 with the Twin Towers hit. This event, after 6 years, actually occurred in 2001. These two images look the same, if you look at them. I repeat, this is the card from 1995. The event happened in 2001, after 6 years. Then anyway, I put it on YouTube. You can take all the photos without any worries. Then, again in the card game, Illuminati, we see the card entitled Earthquake Project, and we see this instrument that sends waves, and the waves creates vibrations in the subsoil, therefore, earthquakes. With the ELF waves, which are similar to a subwoofer, they can create earthquakes. With ELF waves, especially at the point of overlap of tectonic plates. But with Tesla technology, they can create electrical anomalies anywhere on the planet, allowing them to cause earthquakes anywhere on the planet. Luz de Maria 2015. The great powers have built artifacts based on badly used science to cause devastating earthquakes anywhere on the planet. And there are those who say, "Why do you punish us, Lord?" No, children, I do not punish you. The great powers want to balance the majority of the world's population. Is it clear? We've come this far. Now let's watch this video. Because so much more has happened.
that happen?
This extraordinary recording was obtained on January 8, 2024. A group of tourists were in this area of Brazil, and, at one point, they observed a disc-shaped object moving away towards the mountain area. But observe what happens. In the lower part of its structure, it is observed that it emits a short-duration beam. On August 21st of the same year, a security camera installed in Hawaii recorded the presence of a disc-shaped object, which was discovered thanks to a meticulous analysis of the recording. Before the beam, nothing was observed, but in a frozen frame of the contrast video, we can establish without a shadow of a doubt that it is one of the so-called flying saucers. On January 14th, also in the year 2021, a nightly news station in Hanoi, Vietnam, reported a mysterious event, captured by its cameras, during a storm that hit the city. By freezing a frame of video, this strange disc-shaped object was discovered, accompanied by another of smaller size. Both objects were located a few meters above the skyscrapers. Similarly, a news channel in Taiwan City, in the year 2010, reported an extraordinary episode during a broadcast, which talked about the strong electrical storm that was developing in the city. Suddenly, a huge pyramid-shaped structure was seen. It was only visible when there were strong thunderstorms. On the island of Maui, that famous fire broke out last year. About 300 people died, maybe even more. And very peculiar phenomena occurred. For example, let's look at this image. It's a surveillance camera. So the video is indisputable. Surveillance camera. This dazzling blue light appeared and, subsequently, the fire occurred. This bluish-blue light is very similar to the light we saw, for example, in the earthquake in Mexico in 2023. Then, we saw, on the island of Maui, this video in which a laser appears, or in any case a light, that hits these structures, these buildings. Look here, the houses, we are on the island of Maui, are pulverized. But this house here nearby instead was intact. We also see in this other image that the houses here are pulverized. Then, on YouTube you will get everything fully. These houses are really pulverized, and all around there are green trees. The same thing happened in Paradise County, California, in 2018. That is, there was a fire, and these houses were pulverized. But nearby there are green trees. Peculiar, huh? Again, on the island of Maui, some cars have burned. And we see that the rims of the cars have literally melted. The same thing happened in the fire in Paradise County, California, in 2018. We see that the burned cars have the rims completely melted. But a normal fire, as we know it, cannot melt the rims of a car. It is impossible. So, the fire on the island of Maui and the fire in Paradise County, California in 2018 were provoked by laser beams. Tesla technology. I told you earlier that Tesla was patenting the death ray, directed energy weapons, a stream of concentrated particles that can destroy anything. Then, in 2021, we saw in Vietnam an electrical storm manifested, and a flying saucer in the vicinity of this storm. Finally, in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, in December of 2023, We observed a flying saucer that emitted a beam of energy. And in the vicinity of the manifestation of this saucer, we saw a halo of blue light appeared behind it, behind this mountain. This blue light is very similar to the light seen in the electrical storm in Vietnam in 2021. And it also resembles the blue light that we observed, for example, in the earthquake in Turkey in 2023. Then in Puerto Rico, we saw a video from 2021 showing a flying saucer appearing near an electrical storm, accompanied by lightning. They also filtered the image, so it's an authentic image. In Taiwan, in 2010, a hologram of a flying object appeared in the sky also in the proximity of an electrical storm. If we compare this electrical storm to Tesla coils, we see that they are practically the same. Look and compare these two images. All this technology is Tesla's one. So, we have seen holograms and flying objects appearing in proximity to electrical storms in the sky, showing the use of Tesla technology. So, since they have this technology in hand, we expect to see flying saucers or spaceships that emit lightning or laser beams. Okay? Let's now see a video.
European news media, CBN News reported that military sources in Ukraine confirmed that a spaceship fired at night a light beam at a column of Russian convoys, destroying some of them. A column of light in the night confused the Russian troops, opened the question, are Ukrainians receiving heavenly help? There was an attack by the spaceship with a beam that it fired from the sky, and sparks spread everywhere. In the morning, people found that all Russian vehicles were destroyed. All the Ukrainian soldiers thought it was an attack with an unknown weapon, or it was the intervention of God. In this video we can see a convoy of destroyed military vehicles. These are images from March 5th, in the city of Kharkiv. What is hard to believe is that a single plane would have been able to destroy so many military vehicles, but it is said that an unidentified flying object was responsible for this destruction. This information has not been verified. On the other hand, this video documents the downing of a Russian plane by an unidentified flying object. This UFO is said to have shot down the Russian plane on March 6, creating a lot of speculation about what may have happened. On November 13, 2018 in the city of Tel Aviv, Israel, in slow motion we can observe the flash of the object, and almost simultaneously the explosion, at the top of a building. In Turkey, located in the easternmost part of the Balkan Peninsula in Europe, this strange and unusual video footage incidents has gone viral in the last few hours through social media. At a certain moment, a high-pitched buzzing sound was heard at the time of the beam projection. We observe that, just as the object moves through the city, it seems to generate strong interference with electrical installations. As slowing down of the video speed, we can observe the point where the phenomenon was generated, looked from high floor, behind the window. In addition, we can see that from the moment that the lighting hit, the buildings run out of light temporarily. As the beam dissipates, the electrical service resumes in that area. Some users on social media have suggested that the object may have projected an electromagnetic pulse that was the cause of the blackout.
what we have seen. This video probably comes from Turkey, but what is totally sure is that it's absolutely authentic. It's absolutely authentic. We observed a kind of flying object surrounded by lights. Such flying object emitted a laser beam that hit the ground. The emitted laser beam is very similar to that seen, for example, during the fire on the island of Maui. Okay? Very important. Then it is important to note that in front of the camera, there was a window glass. This camera was filming towards the flying object that emitted the laser beam. The laser beam was so strong that the image of the camera was reflected on the surface of the glass in front of the camera itself. This confirms its authenticity. Here we see a flying object that emitted a laser beam. Then, in Israel, in 2023, we saw a ball of light that caused an explosion, hitting a target. This ball of light reminds us a lot of the balls of light observed in Morocco in 2023, during the earthquake. Everything intertwines. Then, in March 2022, what happened in Ukraine during the war? There is also the article. UFO sightings in Ukraine after a miraculous lightning attack on Russian troops. This is the actual article. A Ukrainian soldier testified to CNN. The soldier was emotional and said that, during the war, a UFO intervened, hitting and destroying Russian trucks. Other soldiers also claimed to have seen the UFO and became emotionally too. They got emotional, saying that God is helping us. However, it is not God. This one is not God, because, first and foremost, God is not on the side of Ukraine or America, because the war in Ukraine was planned by American secret services, and the United States is the most warmongering power in the world. So real aliens don't follow this logic. And then we have seen that this UFO, this flying object, destroyed the Russian trucks through lightning. And the lightning, what are them? It is from Tesla technology, Tesla coils. This connection is very clear. Then we notice that even the Russian trucks destroyed by the lightning emitted from this UFO, from this flying object, they show signs of destruction, similar to those of the cars burned during the fire of the island of Maui, a fire caused by laser beams. Okay? The same, so this is all Tesla technology. So, we observe that these spheres of light, and also halos, have appeared of a bright blue. We have seen these spheres of light, as in the case of Peru in 2007, or in Morocco in 2023, and immediately afterward earthquakes occurred. We have seen the sphere of light that caused an explosion in Israel, as well as the flying object that emitted lightning and hit a target in Ukraine. Similarly, this flying object emitted a laser beam that hit the ground in Turkey. Therefore, all this is Tesla technology. It is evident that the powerful of this world already have in their hands spaceships capable of traveling with anti-gravity propulsion and generating artificial earthquakes, as we have seen, emit lightning and laser beams. Using Tesla technology, this must be clear. Tesla, as I mentioned before, was patenting teleportation technology. Let's see this video.
In the summer of 1943, in the midst of World War II, invisibility theory was on top of the agenda. 2 weeks later, according to the alleged Carl Miguel Allende, the Philadelphia experiment took place. In the summer of 1943, tons of electronic instruments were placed on the USS Eldridge, including 2 huge generators mounted in place of the front turret. By October 28, the Navy was ready to repeat the experiment, this time in the open sea. The generators were turned on, and, like the previous time, a green fog surrounded the ship, which slowly disappeared. Carl Allen, or Allende, is the only known eyewitness who was not on board the Eldridge.
After a few minutes, I noticed a green fog rising, a sort of thin cloud. After that, the USS Eldridge quickly became invisible to human eyes.
But the fact is that the USS Eldridge disappeared from Philadelphia Harbor and could no longer be seen in the fog. We gained the radar invisibility in about 70 seconds.
According to his story, the USS Eldridge was reportedly docked near the Philadelphia docks when it disappeared, only to reappear a few minutes later in Norfolk, Virginia. Finally, it returned to the Philadelphia docks again. Things began to go backward, and we found ourselves back in the harbor from which we had disappeared, and there, realizing the horror of the experiment. Some experienced extreme stress, some died of heart attacks, and some men were so traumatized that they required mental hospitalizations for the rest of their lives. But the most horrifying thing was that some, including my brother Jim, had been encased in the steel of the bulkheads. When the camp collapsed, the sailors' molecular structures broke down, and those who were close to something were engulfed in the matter. But the most terrifying event was that others had been fused with the ship, still alive, but with parts of their bodies sealed in the metal.
Tesla died in 1943. Obviously, the secret services took all his patents and developed the technology secretly. This is obvious. Tesla was patenting the teleportation technology. And in fact, in 1943, the first case of teleportation occurred, the Philadelphia experiment that you have seen in the video. They had placed a ship in Philadelphia dock with soldiers on board and 2 electromagnetic field generators, causing a green electromagnetic fog that surrounded the ship. By combining 3 forces, nuclear energy, gravitational energy, and electromagnetic energy, they combined these 3 forces, they caused a green electromagnetic fog to form. There was a flash of light and the ship disappeared. Also disappearing from radar, the ship rematerialized 500 kilometers away in Norfolk, Virginia. And then the ship reappeared with the same green fog in Philadelphia. And then the ship reappeared But what happened? When it returned, the soldiers, who before the teleportation were physically leaning against the ship, at the end of the teleportation, found themselves rematerialized together with it, only that their molecular bonds of their body were fused with those of the ship's material, with the steel of the ship. So, when the ship reappeared, it was discovered, for example, that there was the arm of a soldier fused with the wall of the ship, there was the head of the soldier fused with the entrance door of the ship, there was the leg of the soldier fused with the floor of the ship. Because during the teleportation, the molecular bonds had broken down, and at the end the molecular bonds recomposed, but in a disorderly way. Okay? Then, because of this green magnetic fog, many people gone psychiatrically crazy, and some even died of heart attacks. Anyway, many people died. So, the powerful has this technology in hands of teleportation. And now I figure people say comments on YouTube criticizing me. Oh, what nonsense this guy is talking about. So, let's watch this video.
J'ai jamais vu ça. Sérieux, ça a percé le siège.
Ah, são tempos modernos, todo mundo faz isso. Ué, aonde foi meu motorista gritão?
O meu marido fiel desapareceu. O bebê que eu acabei de batizar sumiu. O que está acontecendo?
É o apocalipse, Shauna, o apocalipse.
We saw, dear friends, the cemetery, this one in Indonesia. Some graves disappeared in an inexplicable way, because there were no signs of excavation and no footprints all around. They disappeared. Teleportation. Then, we saw, I think it's a video they made in France, anyway it's authentic. This car manifested itself here, near this tree trunk. But it's a real video because you can see the image of the people filming this car, their image reflected on the windows. It's a real video. Teleportation. Then we saw The Simpsons cartoon. We know it sent out a lot of notifications, right? And we saw this electrical storm in the sky, this lightning in the sky, I mean, Tesla coils, Tesla technology. Draw the connection between things. And, during this electrical storm, there was the driver of this car, who disappeared, teleported. So, obviously, without the driver, the car lost control and went against the pole. And then, in this cartoon, in this episode, they showed other characters who disappeared, teleported. So the elite have enhanced the teleportation technology. And what did I tell you before? That Tesla was patenting anti-gravity propulsion technology. Isaiah chapter 14 verse 14. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, I will make myself like the Most High. Satan is an imitator of God, he wants to be like the Most High. Carbonia 2016. Soon many men will look up and cry for help, but I will take with me only my children. Giampilieri, apparition in Sicily 2010, with ardent love heaven will be upon his children, upon whom no evil will come. They will be protected from the fury of evil, for this is written. It's written. Cavazia, Venice 2013, I tell you that I will come with my angels, and my angels will take to heaven the people who love God. Those who do not love will remain. Read the Bible. That is, when the situation gets worse, the elect will be raised to heaven and will see from above what will happen. As it happened to Jesus. Jesus was lifted up on a cloud. Elijah was lifted up on a chariot of fire. Satan is an imitator of God. Satan is an imitator of God. So now, to imitate God, Satan must simulate a rapture of the elect and people. They must be lifted up into spaceships. So, Satan needs anti-gravity propulsion. And he has it. Let's see this video.
The S4 base is located a short distance from the Papoose Lake bed, the dried-up bed of an ancient lake. I saw the first flying saucer. I think it was the second, or rather, I think it was the third time I've been there. As soon as I saw it, it struck me that I didn't think it was an extraterrestrial saucer, but some kind of cutting-edge military fighter that we had been working on for years, and that we simply had to test. It was an extraterrestrial craft.
They told you how the propulsion system worked.
It was part of my reverse engineering work, which is to understand how the propulsion system worked. There were many tests, but not outside the atmosphere. They were short flights at low altitude. I witnessed only one test flight up close. Officially, I was inside the hangar. It was very quiet, rising with a faint hiss. The lower surface emitted a blue light, probably due to the very high voltage generated. After a while, as it increased in altitude, the light disappeared, and it seemed to float gently in the air, and then settle on the ground, all in an absolutely calm and almost totally silent way. There were 3 large gravity amplifiers. These devices resembled tubes about 60 centimeters diameter that could be positioned independently of each other. These devices emit gravitational waves that propel the spaceship.
The gravity force is nothing but solar energy, which is stronger than the Earth's energy output, and we sent up a small rocket without propellant by greatly boosting the Earth's energy. It floated and went up.
Por sus extrañas características, este insólito caso nos recordó un video que fue registrado en el transcurso del año de 1983 por un granjero en Argentina que al grabar a su ganado registró claramente cómo una vaca era llevada al interior de un objeto que se encontraba suspendido en el aire. Observe con atención. Al analizar la imagen, reduciendo la velocidad y aplicando un filtro de alto contraste, podemos apreciar claramente cómo la vaca es elevada en el cielo hasta ser introducida en un objeto brillante en forma de disco. Los múltiples casos en donde se ha documentado la repentina aparición de distintas especies de corral y granja, que han aparecido repentinamente en la parte alta de postes de luz y de comunicaciones.
There are thousands of cases of farm and wild animals found in remote areas, where organs, especially reproductive ones, have been removed with a highly sophisticated technique. Many cases in the United States have been certified by the authority.
The reason why this phenomenon from the beginning, that is, from the 60s, seemed so strange, was that there were no traces of blood in the wounds, and there was no blood on the ground. There were no other traces around the animal, not even its own. In my records of hundreds and hundreds of cases from all over the world, there are also half a dozen eyewitness accounts in the United States, of a beam of light being seen descending from an object suspended in the sky.
On many occasions a light was seen coming down from the sky.
The mutilated animal was then found on the ground.
We saw Bob Lazar, who had worked in the secret bases, even in the Area 51, in the secret bases. As I have always said, with reverse engineering, they took real spaceships, and they were able, with reverse engineering, to create spaceships that travel with anti-gravity propulsion. Bob Lazar, what did he tell us? He saw, with his own eyes, live, a test done by humans of this world, and he saw a spaceship, a flying saucer, that emitted a blue light. It rose to the sky, and remained suspended in the sky, for a short time, without making any noise, and then the saucer landed again. Then Igina also made, let's say, fly in the sky an object with, so to say, anti-gravity propulsion. And then we saw this video. Now everyone will criticize me. I imagine how many things they will say behind my back, but it is a video that has been analyzed with filters. And we see this cow being lifted into the sky towards a disk of light. Why do I take this into account? Because there have been several well-documented testimonies about this. Many people in the United States have seen columns of light, and these cows being lifted into the sky. That is why I take them into account. Because in the vicinity of these, so to say, abductions, of these testimonies of eyewitnesses that saw cows lifted up to the sky, in these gardens, they found cows, and this is all documented, nobody can object it. They found cows in the proximity of these gardens, they were found dissected alive. They have been removed with millimeter surgical precision, have been dissected the lips, have been dissected the eyes, have been dissected the genitals and internal organs. And what did they see? That near these wounds, there was not a drop of blood. They were not losing blood, there was not a drop of blood, and they saw that around these bodies, there were no human footprints, or even animal tracks, just as if these cows had been teleported there, or put there from the sky from above. So, the powerful have the anti-gravity propulsion technology in hand, but they are also working on genetic manipulation. El Escorial, Apparition Spain 1996. What they are actually doing is creating beasts so that the human race disappears. Luz de Maria 2016. There are many forms of deception that besiege humanity, to the point that the man of science has invested his existence and his time in seeking a way to surpass me, creating life as he pleases, even going so far as to integrate human tissue into the organism of an animal, causing a series of aberrations against human nature. The Tower of Babel is small compared to what this generation has come to do. So, dear friends, the powerful have taken the genetics of various animal races and crossed them to create new animals, new monsters, so to speak. And in Japan, they have given the green light, since few years, to create human-animal hybrids. You can find it publicly. Now let's see this video. We saw in this video these kind of sheep, hairless, which are not the product of nature, because let's say it is not a mix of breeds that occurred spontaneously in nature. Then there is the lion dog. Then we have here the miniature horse. It is not a pony, it is a miniature horse. They created it because this is how it will be used domestically. Then, this animal, I don't know what it is. This photo with the mouse and the human ear, I don't know. I can't say it's real, but given the type of messages, it could be genuine. I don't know if it's genuine, okay? And then, this photo here is very real of these mice. They showed it at a conference in Italy where they were talking about genetics. And inside these mice they inserted the jellyfish gene. So these mice became fluorescent, they have fluorescent tails, they have fluorescent eyes and noses. Okay? So, if we can find this material simply on YouTube, this means that in the secret bases, they have done much, much more. In fact, the Nazis wanted to create human clones, even underwater ones. And I asked, I'm talking about hot topics, so, you know, every now and then I ask Sylvia too. Sylvia, give me a confirmation. What did the angels tell you? The powerful of this world have already created human clones, but for quite some years now, and the angels confirmed this to her in 2016. Then, with the paperclip project, the Americans after the Second World War went to the Nazi hierarchs, seized the Nazi patents, and developed them themselves, in secret. Okay. So, Satan, from Germany, went to America. And then, well, I went around a few cities to have some meetings. And a dear friend of mine who organized one of those conferences told me an episode. That is, a boy met a lady, random at a conference. The grandfather of this lady had gone to the base of Cape Canaveral, where missiles and planes take off. And in this base there was an area where there were some animals, genetically modified monsters, with toothed beaks and sharp claws. They were really monsters, genetically modified. And he said, they are beasts, with impressive aggressiveness. I mean, if you enter that area, they eat you in a second, in the blink of an eye. And it matches with other Marian messages, what I'm telling you. However, friends, we are living in a period of purification, okay? So I have to tell you these things. Carbonia 2017. The night will be very cold, the howling of wolves will cross the earth, lions will be heard roaring, and dogs growling. Monsters of all species will appear on earth, and men will not be able to find answers, and will be gripped by terror, and will invoke the name of God, of that God they have repudiated. But God will not listen to the cries of those who are not marked in his blood. So, they created these monsters because they will have their function during the purification phase. They will be like scavengers. Okay? So let's get back to Egina now. Egina had discovered a machine that could modify the vibrations of the atoms of a body. And by doing so, modifying the vibrations of the atoms of a body, he had managed to change the external material structure of the body itself. He wrote this in his book, The Magnetic Atom, that a friend of mine pointed out to me. Let's read what he told us. With the same device, one day, I identified the exact vibration of the atoms of an apple tree. I then approached a peach tree. I also tuned into this matter and began to slowly increase the vibration until I reached that of the apple tree. The increase lasted 8 hours. After that I left the peach tree always in tune with the same vibration as the apple tree for 16 days. Little by little I saw the peach tree transforming and fulfill itself into an apple tree. With the same method, a Mayflower peach, which by nature is small in size, could be transformed into a yellow peach, which is much bigger. So Egina, the genius, created this device, this machine, let's call it that way, that can regulate the vibration of the atoms of a body. He changed the vibrations of the atoms of a peach tree and made it become an apple tree. He made it become an apple tree. He did the same on a peach. He changed the atomic vibrations of this peach and, after a while, this peach transformed into a larger type of peach, into a different peach. And he tried to do this on animals too. I did the same on animals, and managed to transform the tail of a mouse into that of a cat. The transformation lasted for 4 days. Then it returned to being a mouse's tail, but then it detached, and the mouse died. The atoms of the mouse's tail had not tolerated the alteration for long. So, with this machine he acted on the vibrations of the atoms of the mouse's tail. He acted in the subtle world. And the mouse's tail turned into the tail of a cat. So, the prince of this world, we must always stay in this perspective, that looks at all this technology, observes all this. The prince of this world, therefore, has a technology with impressive power, enormous. The dark forces of this world, the elite, have an enormous power. Luz de Maria, 2015. Before my arrival, the Antichrist will appear before you, with all human power, confusing my people with false miracles, but since my people do not recognize me, they will be confused. Carbonia 2013. Behold, you will fall into his net, and you will be in the lie, and you will praise Satan, and you will hate Jesus Christ, because the enemy will say he is me. With his false wonders, he will do wonders. He will deceive you, but he will not obtain anything of what he had set out to do, because when he thinks he has victory in his hands, behold, I, God, with the power of my arm, will oust him from my throne, and send him back to hell. Giampilieri, Sicily, 2001. The wicked will come with the power of Satan, with all the strength of false miracles and false wonders. He will use every kind of evil deception to do evil. Saint Paul, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3. Our sacred texts, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction. We also read it at Mass this one. Verse 4, proclaiming himself to be God, okay? The son of perdition will point to himself as God. The coming of the lawlessness one is by the activity of Satan, with all power and false signs and wonders. Do you realize what this passage really means? And with all wicked deception, okay? Very important. Be attentive to this passage. Very important. So, the Antichrist will manifest himself with all sorts of wonders, portents, deceptions, power, everything, precisely because his manifestation will also be accompanied by the technology that this elite has developed. Let me recap. What do these powerful people have in their hands? They have created spaceships that travel with anti-gravity propulsion, teleportation technology, spaceships that emit lightning bolts, laser beams, the death ray that destroys everything. Then, they can project any type of hologram into the sky, and they can make us see humanoid entities that emit real lightning and lightning bolts. Then the Antichrist, he can do all the magic he wants. He can play with genetics, since he has been working on it for a long time, with the collaboration of the elite. Now, this elite, which has an enormous power, enormous, in 2017 began to launch its notifications about the Blue Beam project. Since 2017, and I'll give you obviously a proof of this. Tom DeLonge, former guitarist of music group Blink-182, founded the Organization for UFO Research, to the Stars Academy of Arts and Science. That's how it's pronounced, I think. It's an academy that studies UFOs, the alien threat. Furthermore, the Pentagon, through the New York Times, what did they say? We should know that the Pentagon has always stifled and obscured this great reality about the inhabitants of the universe, always stifled and obscured this great reality. But in 2017, through the New York Times, they told us that they are developing a secret program to study aliens that they call Advanced Aerospace First Identification Program, that can be intended as Pioneering Aerospace Identification Initiative. Then since 2017, they continue to launch notifications. To give you an example, in 2019 Christopher Sherwood said, "The Pentagon keep on investigating on UFOs." Another 2019 article, "Mysterious unidentified objects threaten US fighters, senators on alert." Repubblica Journal, Italy. Article from 2022. Scott Bree, Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence, shows a video of a UFO phenomenon. The Pentagon's UFO alert is a security threat. Illinois Messaggero Journal, Italy. A UFO deactivated 10 nuclear warheads at a military base. The sighting and the mail leave no doubts to the Pentagon. So this must also be said. They notify that there are bad aliens, but they also notify that there are good aliens. This is something that I explained in other meetings that needs to be understood. Now the fundamental step, pay attention to this fundamental step. There was a former US Army colonel. This is the article, but there is another article on this episode that is more detailed, which I will show you. I cut out some pieces of this article, otherwise they would not have fit in a slide. What does it tell us? The declassification of UFOs will happen before October 2030, says the retired US colonel, who is this one in the photo, Carl Nell. Over the recent weekend, an exclusive conference took place at the Stanford University involving former government officials, physicists, experts, researchers, academics, activists, and journalists. This meeting was organized by the Sol Foundation, dedicated to the analysis of UFOs in simple terms. The Daily Mail, an international media present at the event, reported one of the most revealing statements coming from the recently retired US Army Colonel Carl Nell. Okay? I repeat, this is the colonel in the photo. What did he tell us? The colonel proposed a roadmap to achieve transparency on UFOs and suggested a deadline by the end of the decade for the public to be informed about the origin and nature of UFOs. This proposal was supported by a presentation which indicated October 1st as the deadline for the full disclosure and to establish, watch out, and to establish a direct involvement with the non-human intelligences that pilot the UFOs. So, I'll summarize briefly. There was a conference where Carl Nell was present, a former colonel of the American Army. In this conference they spoke about UFOs, and they spoke about documents that are still secret. And Carl Nell proposed a plan of action, that is, by 2030 we must make public to everyone these documents on UFOs. But he also said, by 2030, we must create contact with the extraterrestrials who govern these UFOs. Is it clear what he said? So, 2030, Agenda 2030, does Agenda 2030 ring a bell? To recap, from 2017, they started releasing notifications, then in 2030, we understand, given all these signs, that this Blue Beam project will have to be concluded. So let's try to understand what the goals of the 2030 agenda are. Let's make some other connections. On September 25, 2015, 193 UN member countries met and drew up a list with 17 Sustainable Development Goals. What is Goal 13 about? Fight against climate change. You remember, right, the Blue Beam project? They started in 2017, conclusion 2030. Fight against climate change, the National Sustainable Development Strategy 2017 and 2030. Great match with the Blue Beam project. It is configured as the main tool for the creation of a new circular economic model with low CO2 emissions. Last year, it's not over yet, LST year, the usual people gathered in Davos, the famous Schwab, Tony Blair. There was also Tonja Fajon, Foreign Minister of Slovenia, who clearly said, we must enter a large, world government. And what happened? Look what he said. John Kerry was there too. What did Biden's climate envoy John Kerry say? He made a bizarre outburst at the WEF meeting, saying that extraterrestrial forces brought the globalists to Davos to save the planet. Basically, John Kerry said that extraterrestrial forces want to save the planet, they want to save our economy, by bringing us into a new economy, with less emissions of the famous CO2. So these aliens want to save the climate, and also, in the 2030 agenda it is spoken about saving the climate, so the Blue Beam project is part of the 2030 agenda, making all these connections. It is made clear to us that the aliens want to save our economy. This is the message they want to convey to us. Let's see another connection. In the card game Illuminati, we see this alien who gives money to the powerful of our plant. So he saved the economy. It is clear that everything that happens is perfectly planned, organized, but already, since many years. So, 2017-2030. Always remember this period. Within this period, 2017-2030, that is in 2023, Carl Nell, I repeat, told us that the UFO reality must be declassified, must be made public. Carl Nell also said this other thing. Attention, very important. Let's look at the article again. It is important to emphasize that Colonel Nell, last June, publicly supported the testimonies of David Grush, defining his account as flawless. So, he claims that David Grush has told great truths. Let's see who David Grush is. Let's read the article. According to David Grush, the United States has been aware of alien activity since the 1930s. Non-human biological remains found. Pay attention to this passage, non-human biological remains found, because the UFO theories of the former 007 Grush have reached the US Congress. So, basically this man, David Grush, is part of the intelligence. Let's say he is a fake rebel. It's all a plan. This too. He is part of the intelligence. And what did he say? That extraterrestrials exist, and that the American government has known about this reality since the 1930s, so, since 100 years approximately. And he said that the American government owns real spaceships that have been recovered, and that it also has extraterrestrial bodies. Beware. Biden. Another one who announced the need to enter a great world government. Biden, in 2021 signed a law that determines how should be handled spaceships and extraterrestrial bodies recovered in 2021. Clear? Let's go back to Carl Nell's article that wants to declassify all UFO documents by 2030. Let's go back to the article. What did he tell us? During the event, other significant statements were made by the founder of the Sol Foundation, Dr. Gary Nolan. What did Dr. Gary Nolan tell us? Dr. Gary Nolan, whose laboratory at Stanford houses highly precise instruments for analyzing the atomic and molecular structure of these physical samples. I mean, basically, at this conference at Stanford University, where Colonel Carl Nell was also present, who said we have to declassify everything by 2030, there was also this Dr. Gary Nolan. At this conference they talked about recovered extraterrestrial spaceships, recovered extraterrestrial bodies, and this Dr. Gary Nolan said, we have the right tools to analyze the atomic structure and the molecular structure of these extraterrestrial bodies. So, what is the power notifying that there are extraterrestrial bodies, that they have the instruments to do the analysis on these extraterrestrial bodies, and that they want to make this information public to everyone? So, what should happen? By listening and analyzing these notifications, that in this period, 2017-2030, the power will make us see extraterrestrial bodies, will do analysis on these extraterrestrial bodies, and will show the analysis of these extraterrestrial bodies to the whole world, publicly. And in fact, this is exactly what happened. That is, in 2017, in Peru, near the Nazca lines, they found some tridactyl, reptilian, extraterrestrial bodies. In 2017, exactly in 2017, after a few years, these bodies were handed over to Mauson, who, in my opinion, is a very good person, an excellent researcher, but that's another story. They gave them to Mauson a few months ago, I think a year ago they gave them to Mauson, and Mauson on September 12, 2023, he presented them to the parliament in Mexico. And what did they do? They took these bodies, they took them to a university, they did DNA analysis. They saw that the DNA of these bodies is 30% different from ours. Then, they said that it is a DNA that cannot come from this world, and they said that our DNA is more similar to that of a monkey than to that of these tridactyl, reptilian bodies. These are the bodies you see. Then, they did fluoroscopy, X-rays, they did a lot, and they did carbon-14 dating, and they said that these bodies are about 1,000 years old, approximately. Then they saw that in these bodies there were metal plates, In these metal plates, there was osmium. Osmium is a material that we humans of this world, mined only 200 years ago. And it is a material that we use for telecommunication instruments. So they made this calculation, that is, the bodies are 1,000 years old. We humans mined the osmium only 200 years ago. So, as a matter of course, the bodies are definitely extraterrestrial. But let's not forget the power that the elite has. So let's see the Marian messages. What do they tell us? This discovery, this announcement that they made about these bodies did not convince me at all. I'll explain why. Anguera, Brazil, 2007. There will be a great discovery in Israel, and men will be amazed. Listen to the voice of God. 2008. An archaeological discovery will be made in Rome, and will cause great confusion for the church. Remain firm in the faith. Whatever happens, do not depart from the truth. I have also read other messages that speak of archaeological discoveries, fake ones, that will be made to deceive us. That will be made in various parts of the world, and in my opinion, this discovery of these two tridactyl bodies, discovered in Peru, was done on purpose, to create confusion. It is an elite plan. Let's say, it's an elite plan, because there are some points that do not add up. In these bodies they found very small eggs, and they also found a fetus inside this body. So the fetus was dead. It's clear, right? The fetus was dead. Maybe I'm wrong, asking myself this question, okay? But I wonder, if an extraterrestrial society comes here, so they are much more evolved than us, will they have the technology to carry a pregnancy to term? I'm wondering so. Then, another point that doesn't add up at all is this. These reptilian bodies were found in a mine in Peru, so in a humid environment. And they said that these bodies were preserved thanks to the diatomaceous earth that dried these bodies and prevented them from being attacked by insects, by parasites that would have devoured these bodies. And I'm not convinced at all, because I have a friend who graduated in paleontology, who knows a lot about these things. He traveled the world, he's done excavations, he knows a lot about it, and he told me that diatom dust cannot preserve bodies in this way. And he explained to me that in a humid environment, like a mine, diatom dust cannot preserve bodies like this. That is, it can preserve, I'm talking about diatom dust, it can preserve bodies in an extremely dry environment, like the desert, not in a humid environment like a mine. And then he told me, diatom dust preserves bodies with a process of mineralization. So, the soft compounds of the body, the tissues, the organs, are preserved with a process of mineralization. That is, as time passes, the soft compounds transform into mineral compounds. So basically, with diatom dust, you only preserve bones. And then my friend told me, here I see eyelids, I see lips, I see soft tissues between the ribs. And so here it doesn't add up for me. You can't preserve bodies like that. He told me, a graduate, expert. So, in my opinion, I'll stick to my opinion. In my opinion, these bodies are part of an elite project, the Blue Beam Project. And I told you what power this elite has. Okay, I told you that on purpose. So, for me, behind these bodies there are dark forces that organized all this. Therefore, dear Friday, I'll make a short summary of everything, very short. When you watch this video from your home, take a picture of these 2 slides that I'll show you. I'll make a summary, a very short summary. The elite has seized all the patents of the most brilliant minds of this world and develops them in the secret bases. They can reproduce Tesla's technology at meteorological terms. They can create storms, laser beams, earthquakes, where and when they want, holograms of any shape, such as spaceships with anti-gravity propulsion, teleportation. They can mix the molecular bonds of different bodies, biological and non-biological, creating humanoid clones, confirmed by Sylvia too, and genetic intertwining of various types, and much more. The elite decided to issue notifications and manifest the Blue Beam project within the period 2017-2030. In 2017, they began to massively publish articles about the alien threat and the presence of good aliens, not just bad aliens. Important. Because everyone assumed the Blue Beam project is that bad aliens are coming. No, it's not just like that. From 2021 onwards, they began to notify the presence of non-human biological bodies, extraterrestrials, i.e. the law signed by Biden. I read it before. The testimony of David Grush of the intelligence, the statement of former Colonel Carl Nell. In 2023, they presented in the Parliament of Mexico 2 particular extraterrestrial bodies, found in 2017 in Peru, in a mine. Bodies that, from what they said, were preserved in a mine, with diatomaceous dust. But the diatomaceous dust itself should not preserve in this way a body, in a humid environment such as a mine. A suspicious spaceship appears in 2022 in the war in Russia. In Ukraine, where Russian trucks were bombed in the war with Russia, which throws lightning at Russian trucks. Then we saw in Turkey a spaceship, a flying object, let's say, with static lights in the sky, which emitted a laser beam similar to those emitted on the island of Maui. In 2023, which is all Tesla technology. So, dear friends, today I have said it all. I do this to call upon your consciences. I think that the elements that I have brought you today are very, very clear. I also invite you to show this video to atheists. Find a way to show this video to atheists, so that even atheists wake up looking at all these documents, all these elements, okay? So I invite you to spread this video. And I repeat, it depends on your conscience. I ask for the translation of this video into various languages. Let's spread it as much as possible because they are really making it big, okay? I have said it all. Thank you very much, dear friends. Thank you, friends.